Hey, we know that poor nutrition and lack of exercise contributes to weight gain, but new research is showing that exposure to certain air pollutants may cause weight gain as well. Amy Lund, a cardiovascular toxicology researcher with the University of North Texas, is here to explain. Okay, this is blowing my mind here. So, are you saying that the air we breathe can actually make us fat?
So the simple answer to your question is yes. There have been a handful of studies that have come out over the past few years that show living in urban areas with high levels of air pollution are associated with increased incidence of obesity. The research that we've done has actually tried to investigate why exactly that's happening, and our recent results show that yes, in fact, air pollution exposure can cause an increase in weight gain and promotion of obesity.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so how much weight are we talking about?
So that's a really hard number to determine because there's so many different factors that can contribute to weight gain, everything from genetics to diet to exercise and even other diseases that people may have. But in our study, we exposed with a mixture of traffic-generated air pollutants, and we saw that those exposures resulted in about a 10% increase in the size of the fat cell.
Wow.
That was associated with about a 5% overall weight gain. Now, when we coupled those exposures with a high-fat diet, we saw that number increase to about 25% growth in fat cells, which was associated with about an overall 10% weight gain.
So obviously the high-fat diet doesn't make it any better. That's not helping you. When you talk about these pollutants or chemicals,
yes,
is there something specific, or is it just kind of all of them in general?
So in our laboratory, we actually study traffic-generated air pollutants, which are a mixture of both gasoline and diesel engine emissions. And the reason that we choose that type of an exposure scenario is because vehicle emissions contribute to the majority of the ambient air pollution on any given day in an urban area. So because of that, it's very difficult to tease apart if it's one component of the pollution versus the mixture as a whole. But we are starting to undertake studies to begin to try to tease apart and determine if there are single components of the exposure causing the outcomes.
So what I'm hearing is go ahead and live at the beach, Sonia, or in the country, somewhere with not so much pollutants. What happens in the body though? You inhale, you breathe this stuff in, and then what happens to create these changes?
So we know that when we're exposed to air pollutants, there are chemicals and particles in the air pollution that can cause inflammation in the body as a whole. And what we believe is happening in the fat cells is that inflammation is actually causing an insult to the fat cells that changes the way they regulate taking up nutrients and storing fat. And so as the cells begin to store more fat, they grow in size. And as they grow in size, they actually cause issues with surrounding blood vessels and tissues that produce then those cells to create even more inflammation.
And so, Amy, I'm just gonna have to ask you real quick, wear a mask or just reduce your exposure to the outdoors?
So I think best thing to do is be aware of what the air quality is outside. We have access to those indices through weather apps and websites, and that way we can minimize our exposures when air quality levels are poor.
Okay, hey, now you know. Thank you so much for this great research and information.